Announcements none. Papers have been laid. Motion.
Madam Speaker,
Yes.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the old business on today's orders paper be exempted from the provisions of paragraph 2 of Standing Order 10.
Yes. The question is that all the business on today's order paper be exempted from the provisions of paragraph 2 of Standing Order 10. Those in favour say aye, those against say no. The ayes have it.
Statement by ministers, none. Presentation of the government program 2025-2029 by His Excellency the President of the Republic of Mauritius.
Honourable members, I now suspend the sitting for a few minutes to welcome His Excellency the President of the Republic of Mauritius, who will be presenting the government program 2025-2029. Honourable members, you requested to proceed to Vagji Hall, Memorial Hall, where the proceedings of the Assembly will resume with the presentation of the government program 2025-2029 by His Excellency the President of the Republic. At the end of his address and after the seeing off of His Excellency the President of the Republic, the Assembly will resume here in the chamber to complete the remaining business.
Madame, Monsieur, vous voyez l'arrivée donc de la parade qui va prendre position devant le Parlement. Je vous le disais un peu plus tôt, l'effectif que vous verrez aujourd'hui est composé de plus de 150 hommes et femmes affectés à 4 unités de la police, la SMF, la SSU, la NCG et le Police Helicopter Squadron. La parade sous les commandes du Parade Commander, lieutenant-colonel Gopi. La parade qui est accompagnée par l'orchestre de la police et qui prend position donc devant le Parlement.
Correct!
Alors, la garde d'honneur qui a déjà pris position, on attend à présent l'arrivée du président de la République. Il sera accueilli par la speaker. Alors, je vous le disais, on attend l'arrivée du président de la République, Dharam Vir Gokul. C'est lui qui procédera à la lecture du discours programme 2025-2029. Alors, toute une cérémonie avant cette lecture. Il y aura à l'arrivée du président la fanfare présidentielle. Nous entendrons ensuite l'hymne national, suivi par une salve de 21 coups de canon et des tirs effectués depuis le Codan où est postée une équipe de 45 soldats de la SMF. C'est aussi une coutume depuis plusieurs années, puis cette pratique est désormais ancrée dans la tradition de notre pays. Elle marque différents moments importants de la vie publique. Vous voyez aussi à l'écran l'arrivée de la speaker de l'Assemblée nationale, Chérine Oumiroudi Sifra. la speak Shirin Oumiroudi Zifra qui va aller accueillir le président de la République. Pour lui qui a déroulé aujourd'hui le tapis rouge pour cet événement spécial, le discours programme 2025-2029. Alors, on assiste à l'arrivée du président de la République. Le président d'Arambie Goukoul, accueilli par Shirin Oumiroudi Zifra. C'était la fanfare présidentielle. Alors, le président de la République est invité à passer en revue la parade. Il est accompagné par le commissaire de police et le commanding officer de la SMF, la Special Mobile Force. Cette partie de la cérémonie est à présent terminée. La speaker Shirin Oumiroudi Zifra va maintenant accompagner le président au Sir Harilal Vagji Hall. Le président de la République et Madame Brinda Gokul, son épouse. Alors, vous voyez à l'image la speaker, le président, mais aussi le Sergeant at Arms et le Acting Clerk de l'Assemblée nationale. Il se dirige vers le Vagji Hall. Le Vagji Hall, je vous le disais plutôt, aujourd'hui est une continuité des travaux parlementaires. C'est là que le président va lire le discours programme. Le Vagji Hall, donc, où sont réunis les invités et les députés.
I will announce same and all guests are to stand up for the arrival of the procession, which will be preceded by the national anthem. Thank you.
Alors, le Vagji Hall, où sont réunis les invités, je vous le disais, mais aussi les 66 députés. il y a le vice-président, il y a des ambassadeurs, des hauts-commissaires, des syndicalistes, des représentants d'organisations internationales. Au total, quelques 360 personnes réunies au Vagji Hall cet après-midi.
Distinguished guest President, Mr. President.
Your Excellency, it is my privilege to invite you to present the Government Programme 2025-2029.
Madam Speaker, honorable members, I am pleased to welcome you to the presentation of Government Programme for the 8th National Assembly. I would like to congratulate all honorable members of the Assembly, and I extend a particular welcome to those who have been elected to this August Assembly for the first time. Honorable members, the people have spoken. The 10th of November 2024 was a defining and pivotal moment in the history of our country. It would be opportune at the very outset to commend the exemplary manner in which the people decided to take their destiny in their own hands. They displayed a sense of maturity and unity rarely seen in many parts of the world. Through the landslide victory of the Alliance du Changement at the 2024 general elections, the people express their opinion on the way the affairs of our country have been managed during the past 10 years. Posterity has already recorded the 10 years from 2015 to 2024 as a dark period in our history. Government has received a clear and overwhelming mandate for a drastic change of course and to chart a new development path. Government seeks not only to respond to the aspirations of the people and honor its electoral pledges, but it will also forge a social pact with the people. This program lays the foundation of a bridge to the future. The new model of development being proposed will be underpinned by innovation and creativity. Honorable members, I have the honor and privilege to present to the House and to the nation at large the government program for its 5-year mandate. The very first mission of government is to reconstruct our democracy, restore good governance, and implement constitutional reforms. Government is committed to put back on track the very founding principles of our parliamentary democracy. Government will, as a matter of urgency, invite the Standing Orders Committee of the National Assembly to review and update the standing orders of the National Assembly. Honorable members, our country reckons more than 5 decades of experience of its constitutional framework, and it is therefore high time to review and update our Constitution. Following the review, government will implement constitutional and electoral reforms required to consolidate our democracy. Our country, long cited as a model of democracy in the world, has in recent years been downgraded in global indices for its poor governance. Government will reinstate the independence of public institutions to enhance effectiveness, efficiency, and credibility. Government is committed to restoring the trust of the nation in independent and impartial institutions. Government will foster ethics and integrity as core values in all walks of life. Government will appoint within 6 months a Constitutional Review Commission, which will make recommendations on constitutional and electoral reforms, as well as on enhanced protection of fundamental rights. The Commission will, inter alia, examine the setting up of an electoral college, which will elect the President of the Republic with a view to ensuring that the President has a mandate from a broader base. Provisions to be made in the Constitution for the mandatory holding of local government elections at statutory intervals. Amendments to be made to Chapter 2 of the Constitution to better protect fundamental rights, including new generation rights relating to environment, technology, health, education, and other economic, social, and cultural rights provided under international treaties, and also to provide for the rights of nature. An amendment to be made to enshrine in our Constitution the core values of peace, justice, liberty, which we pledge to honor in our national anthem. The Constitutional Review Commission will also consider legislative amendments to enable public interest litigation. and class actions that will better safeguard public interests and better protect citizen rights. The terms of reference of the Commission will include reforms to our electoral system so that it better reflects the will of the people of Mauritius by ensuring equitable parliamentary representation, including une dose de proportionnel, and a higher number of women as members of parliament. The reforms will include the right to recall members of parliament in prescribed circumstances and in accordance with modalities set out in the Constitution, as well as anti-defection provisions. To enhance transparency in the political sphere, combat corruption, and ensure free and fair elections, government will introduce legislation on the funding of political parties. Government will embark on wide consultations to implement inclusive and participatory reforms aimed at modernizing the electoral process and bringing celerity in the access to justice over electoral matters. Government will propose the establishment of a constitutional division of the Supreme Court for the timely adjudication of matters concerning citizen rights and freedoms, as well as to provide redress in the event of any breach of other constitutional provisions. To promote national unity and nation building, constitutional amendments will be brought to remove the mandatory declaration of community affiliation, thus allowing candidates to stand for the National Assembly elections without being required to make any declaration of their community. By so doing, government will ensure that all citizens have the right to stand as candidates for elections, even if they do not wish to declare their community affiliation. Honorable members, government has already demonstrated its will to ensure the right to privacy of citizens is not infringed. It has revoked the regulations on the registration of SIM cards and has caused to be erased the database of photographs collected in the context thereof. Government will strengthen measures pertaining to the protection and management of personal and sensitive data. The Constitutional Review Commission will consider proposals to further consolidate the constitutional right to privacy. Government will introduce legislation to ensure that any covert surveillance is carried out strictly and necessarily only for the purposes of prevention and detection of crime or national security. The law will prevent the widespread spying of citizens, which occurred over the last few years. Government will strengthen the legal provisions regarding the appointment of members of the Independent Broadcasting Authority, IBA, and the powers and obligations of the IBA in relation to the Mauritius Broadcasting Corporation to ensure the latter's independence and impartiality. In order to promote pluralism in the audiovisual sector, arrangements will be made for the introduction of private television channels. Government will set up a senior officials appointment committee which will make recommendations to government on the appointment of heads of major public institutions, other than those made by the service commissions already provided for in the Constitution. A Freedom of Information Act will be introduced to provide for more transparency in relation to decisions of public institutions, to ensure that the principles of meritocracy and non-discrimination in employment are upheld. Government will strengthen the powers of the Equal Opportunities Commission. The powers of the Public Bodies Appeal Tribunal will also be broadened to cover all disputes relating to recruitment and promotion in the public sector as a whole. Recruitment and promotion processes in the public sector are largely outdated and will be completely overhauled to ensure that skills are recognized and that the country has a modern and effective civil service. Different chairpersons will be appointed at the Public Service Commissions and the Discipline Forces Service Commission, respectively, in order to expedite recruitment and promotion exercises and enhance the level of transparency and meritocracy. Honorable members, in view of the recent serious challenges to the rule of law and the role of enforcement agencies, government will take immediate measures to ensure that they operate in a totally independent and transparent manner. Government will repeal the Financial Crimes Commission Act and will set up a national crime agency and other serious crimes. The agency will not impinge on the prosecutorial powers of the Director of Public Prosecutions, but will ensure that an investigation is carried out independently, objectively, and effectively. This will also ensure that those who have transgressed the law are brought to justice. It would be for the office of the DPP to continue the prosecution. To reinforce the effectiveness of prosecution and reduce the time frame for prosecution, a prosecution service will be set up under the aegis of the office of the DPP. In the meantime, the FCC Act will be amended to remove the powers granted to the Director General to prosecute without the consent of the DPP. Thus, powers relating to prosecution will rest with the office of the DPP. In line with the relevant constitutional provisions. In addition, the Constitution will be amended to reinforce the independence and role of the DPP. An Ethics and Integrity Commissioner will be appointed to advise public and private entities on the implementation of policies and practices that will facilitate compliance with the principles of integrity and good governance. Government will also review the Public Procurement Act to prevent abuses such as those noted during the COVID-19 pandemic from ever occurring again. Government will restore public confidence in the Gambling Regulatory Authority, particularly in regard to its oversight of the horse racing industry. Government will commission a thorough management and financial audit of the authority. Relevant amendments will be brought to the Act to ensure that the GRA operates as a trustworthy regulator of the gaming and betting industry in a transparent and accountable manner. Honorable members, geopolitical and global economic shifts make it imperative for the country to embark on a more dynamic, innovative, and proactive diplomatic strategy. Government will undertake an evaluation of our democracy and enhance our foreign service with a new legal framework and resources. Government will give top priority to capacity building to enable our diplomacy to better promote the vital interests of our country. Government will spare no effort to obtain the support of international community so that our country exercises effective sovereignty over the whole territory of the Republic of Mauritius as defined in our Constitution, as well as over the vast maritime zones of our archipelagic state. Government will go beyond the use of economic diplomacy, that of developmental diplomacy, to advance the interests of Mauritius. It will explore all opportunities arising from bilateral and multilateral cooperation in addressing climate change, sustainable development, the development of the ocean economy, security, and other pressing issues. Government will ensure that our country plays a more important role in climate diplomacy and climate justice. With a view to strengthening regional dynamics, government will promote regional cooperation and enhance economic integration, particularly with the coastal states of the Indian Ocean. Government will support the efforts of our partners of the African continent to achieve the ambitious goal proposed by the Agreement on the creation of the African Continental Free Trade Area. Mauritius will pursue the objective of the Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa, COMESA, aiming at ensuring economic prosperity through regional integration. Government will also enhance cooperation within the Southern African Development Community, the Indian Ocean Commission, and the Indian Ocean Rim Association. Government will set up a Center for International Strategic Studies to promote capacity building and research. Honorable members, restoring the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the Republic of Mauritius will be a major priority for government. Government will relentlessly pursue its engagement with our partners over Chagos Archipelago, including Diego Garcia, so that development in and around the archipelago is beneficial to the nation at large and of Chagosian origin living in Mauritius. Government will also set up a regional center for research and education on climate change and socio-ecological transformation, which will act as a platform for islanders in the organization and the African Regional Intellectual Property Organization. Government will adopt a transformative and policy-driven approach to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030, centered on the principles of people, planet, and prosperity. Mauritius will adhere to the principles of Antigua and Barbuda Agenda for SIDS on climate resilience, preservation of biodiversity, and the promotion of sustainable economic growth through investment in the ocean economy and renewable energy. Honorable members, with regard to the international trade, government will ensure that existing agreements with our trading partners are used to their full extent and potential. Government will continue lobbying efforts to ensure the extension of the African Growth and Opportunity Act on a long-term basis. The destiny of Mauritius is inextricably linked to the future development of our region and our continent. Being part of Africa, Mauritius will support the strategy for improving trade and economic development of the continent. The destiny of Mauritius is inextricably linked to the future development of our region and our continent. Being part of Africa, Mauritius will support the strategy for improving trade and economic development of the continent. Government is committed to increasing our share of the wealth derived from our seas and will press for more equitable arrangements in the allocation of marine resources in the Indian Ocean. Government will engage with neighboring countries and other fishing nations with a view to increasing our contribution to the value chain in the fisheries industry. Government will also work to enhance the regional maritime security architecture to combat a broad range of illegal activities on the high seas, as well as combat human and drug trafficking. Our surveillance capacity will be increased to ensure enhanced maritime security and protection of our exclusive economic zone. Honourable members, government, notwithstanding the fact that it has inherited a dire economic situation, wants to assure the nation of its determination to forge ahead with confidence to fix and reconstruct the economy while doing the maximum it can do to lift the standard of living of all Mauritians. Government will pay urgent attention to Rodrigues, Agaliga, and Saint-Brando. It is manifestly clear that a well-thought-out long-term plan is needed. With the emergence of the new economic landscape and the need to plan accordingly, government has re-established the Ministry of Economic Planning, which will work out a plan for socio-economic reconstruction with time-bound targets and goals. In the short and medium term, government is coming up with a program for economic reforms and fiscal consolidation that will usher in a new economic order where economic growth will be productivity-based, focusing on higher value-added activities. An impetus will be given to the SME sector to enhance its contribution to the economy in order to boost import substitution. Government will move away from the mainly consumption-driven economic growth model to one that is investment-driven. Government strategy to boost investment will comprise 5 planks. First, the broadening and diversifying of the investment space. Second, resource repurposing to optimize the use of our productive resources. Third, a groundbreaking framework for innovation, research, and development. Fourth, rebuilding of our institutional strength. And fifth, a strengthening of macroeconomic fundamentals. Honourable members, to broaden and diversify our investment space, government will use 2 leverages: our excellent trade and economic relations with countries in the region and around the world, and the vast potential of the ocean economy. Government will encourage Mauritian businesses to integrate the regional supply chains, focusing in high-growth sectors such as agro-processing, textiles, and ICT. Government will facilitate triangular partnerships to position Mauritius as a hub for manufacturing and re-exportation. Government will leverage its economic cooperation and relations with African and Asian countries in order to expand its exports. Government will ensure that existing agreements with our trading partners are used to their full extent and potential. At the same time, government will consolidate its existing export markets through more targeted marketing and promotion campaigns. To further expand our investment space, government will embark on an ambitious ocean economic project for our country. So far, considered a small island state, Mauritius is positioning itself as a large ocean state. Indeed, we have one of the largest exclusive economic zones in the world, as well as a continental shelf extending over an area that is approximately 1,000 times greater than that of our territory. The Ocean Economy Project aims at adopting a holistic policy approach to all ocean-related activities, both onshore and offshore. The synergy thus created will enable us to optimize the benefits for the country as a large ocean state. We will have to conceptually transition from a SIDS framework to a large ocean state one. The roadmap for the ocean economy, developed in 2013, represented the first concrete step towards the development of a sustainable ocean economy in Mauritius. However, this roadmap was never transformed into concrete actions by the successor government. Based on these foundations, this government is determined to set up and develop an inclusive, sustainable ocean economy, exploring our untapped ocean assets while ensuring that the benefits are shared with the whole population. Several economic sectors are directly dependent on our maritime space and resources. Government will create new pôles de croissance in our ocean economy. Government will organize a second national dialogue on ocean economy to update and resume the initiative that was launched in 2013. The deliberations will contribute to creating an enabling environment for the ocean economy to take off and become a major pillar of our overall economy. Government will invest in the creation of a vast pool of human resources specialized in various fields related to the ocean economy as part of its strategy of capacity building in the ocean economy sector. A department dedicated to multidisciplinary research on the ocean economy will be set up with the collaboration of experts in the field. Honorable members, to further diversify our economic space, government is committed to developing transformative new sectors while consolidating existing and traditional pillars. The development of the local renewable energy sector will be a key component of government's endeavor to usher in transformative new sectors while aiming at making Mauritius a green economy. Government will accelerate the development of the renewable energy sector to achieve greater energy security. Government will launch an ambitious food security program. Efficiency in the food production sector will be improved so as to make food more accessible, affordable, and safer for the population. Government will transform and consolidate the agricultural and food production sector in ways that support higher levels of local production and the supply of safer food while promoting the green economy concept. The rational use and management of prime agricultural land will be a critical factor in enhancing food security. An agricultural land suitability mapping of the whole country, including Rodrigues, will be an immediate priority. The latest methodology for the traceability of food and food products will also be introduced. Government will support the modernization of our agriculture and fisheries to enhance the earning capacity of those who depend on these sectors for their livelihood. Local producers will be encouraged to become export-oriented. A comprehensive technical audit of all institutions in the agribusiness sector will be undertaken so that appropriate measures can be implemented to ensure that they operate in a coherent and effective manner. Research and development innovation and advisory services to support producers will be the main thrust of their activities. A policy for the recruitment of foreign labor to address the shortage of seasonal workforce will be an urgent task for government. Smart and eco-farming studies will become part of the school curriculum. Regional food security will be an important constituent of cross-border initiatives and cooperation. The potential of the sugarcane as an energy crop through the adoption of high-fiber varieties will be explored. The production of specialty sugars will also be increased. Honourable members, government is committed to making Mauritius an intelligent island through effective 360 degrees digital transformation of government services. This will make our governance more citizen-centered, data-driven, responsible, and transparent. This approach aims at digitalizing all life events of natural and corporate persons. As part of the technology foresight exercise, a novel national artificial intelligence strategy will be developed to set clear objectives and leverage its transformative power for fueling economic growth. The licensing regime in the telecommunications sector will be reviewed to keep pace with the dynamic evolution in the sector and streamline the services for a simpler licensing framework. The Cybersecurity and Cybercrime Act 2021 will be amended to address cybersecurity issues more effectively. Government will set up the mobile ID, which will represent the de facto identity for Mauritians in the virtual world and will be central to all online transactions which Mauritians will conduct with the government and will later be extended to the private sector. This mobile ID will enable centralized services encompassing health, education, social security, local authorities, and banking, among others. Honourable members, government will further develop the tourism industry with a focus on sustainable tourism and increasing the benefits for all Mauritians. Ecotourism will be given greater prominence in government's tourism development strategy. To ensure the long-term viability of the tourism sector and making it more inclusive and participative, tourism development strategy will comprise a balanced approach through community engagement and community-based initiatives. At the same time, public leisure facilities and recreational spaces will be developed while preserving our natural and cultural heritage. Government will assist industry stakeholders in developing year-round, high-season strategy that will focus on specialized offerings, including seasonal pricing of air connectivity, indoor attractions, cultural festivals, and wellness retreats, amongst others. As government implements its new economic model, the financial services sector will be called upon to play an even more significant role. It should be able to meet the increasing demand for capital and other financial services that will arise from higher investment. Global business makes up an important segment of the financial services industry, which is facing tough challenges. Its development during the past 10 years has lagged behind international trends. And as part of its effort to evolve a new economic model, government will work along with stakeholders of the global business sector to move up the value chain, increase the flow of services, create more jobs, and better integrate it internationally. Government will come up with a new strategic plan for financial services to consolidate the reputation and image of its jurisdiction whilst improving its product offerings and pioneering the development of new market segments through enhanced organizational and operational efficiencies, improve approach to supervision and enforcement of policies aligned with international standards, continuous engagement with stakeholders to ensure alignment on future orientation, rebuilding the brand image of the jurisdiction, and competitor analysis to remain abreast of threats and opportunities. Honorable members, government realizes that there is a suboptimal use of our country's resources, including human resources, land, capital, and entrepreneurial skills. The responsiveness of the labor market to the economic exigencies of the country has been severely undermined. To remedy the situation, government will introduce strategies to address skills mismatch and labor shortages in our economy. To this end, a skills master plan for the economy will be developed jointly with stakeholders to identify core competencies required to support the emerging technology-driven economy. Regular national and sectoral skill studies will be carried out by the Human Resource Development Council. The education, skilling, and training systems will be re-engineered with a focus on better preparing our youth for the world of work. Government will implement new policies to improve working conditions and enhance protection of workers' rights. Convinced that gender inequality in the labor force is pressing and social issue as well as an economic challenge, government is coming up with effective policies to bridge the gender gap. Government will support the faster growth of employment opportunities for women. Government will adopt measures to address our country's changing demographics and meet the labor market requirements, including strategic sectors such as agriculture. A diaspora policy will be formulated to engage our diaspora in the development of our country. A Talent, Merit and Excellence Initiative, TMEI, will be launched with a view to promoting talent and merit in search of excellence. To ensure that the labor market fulfills its role in the new economic model, the wage determination system will be reviewed. As part of its strategy of resource repurposing for higher productivity, government will also review the land use strategy. For years, land use planning has been under two pieces of legislation, namely the Town and Country Planning Act 1954 and the partly proclaimed Planning and Development Act 2004. Government will introduce a consolidated and modern legislation on land use planning. Government will implement the Digital Twin Mauritius project, which will support smarter land use planning. Government will also foster capital repurposing in both the private and the public sector. The operations of the banking sector and the capital markets will be revamped to make it easier and more efficient to mobilize capital resources. In parallel, the public sector, particularly government, will work to improve the productivity of their investment. Resource repurposing is also about creating a new entrepreneurial culture that is adapted to the vision of the proposed economic order. Government is fully aware of the crucial role that the small and medium enterprises as well as cooperatives play in the socio-economic development of our country. Government will introduce a revamped legal framework and an innovative package of incentives to strengthen the capacity and competitiveness. It will also assist them in tapping export opportunities. Government will support cooperative societies to align their activities with the Sustainable Development Goals and with the circular economy. The cooperative sector will be re-engineered with a focus on clustering societies and maximizing on existing benefits, including fair trade certification. Boosting innovation through research and development will be a powerful strategy to support efforts to increase investment in our country. In this context, an appropriate legal framework will be developed to operationalize this initiative. Government will also set up a national research institute under the aegis of the Prime Minister's Office to rationalize all research activities and initiatives in Mauritius and to ensure optimal utilization of research resources. Such a research institute will also have an important regional dimension and enhance the contribution of Mauritius to development in the region. Honourable members, to ensure adequate support to the new economic model, government will rebuild the institutional strengths that have been the backbone of economic development and progress before being rendered ineffectual in the past decade. The re-engineering that government is already implementing at the Bank of Mauritius is an example of the determination to reconstruct our economic institutions so that they can better support the new economic vision. Government will also carry out a fundamental review of the role and functions of the Economic Development Board to focus on boosting productive investment and export promotion across all sectors of the economy. Government will restore and strengthen the dialogue with civil society, trade unions, and private sector on key development issues. Government recognizes that one of the critical success factors behind its endeavor to boost productive investment will be its ability to restore sound macroeconomic fundamentals. Government is determined to put public sector debt, the budget deficit, and government borrowing requirements on downward path to sustainable levels. As it secures fiscal consolidation, government will ensure that its tax reforms also foster greater fairness, certainty, efficiency, and convenience in the tax system. Government will introduce new legislation to establish the Revenue Appeal Tribunal, which will take over the function and powers of the Assessment Review Committee. Government will also reform the expenditure side of its national budget based on the principle of judicious use of every rupee. Government expenditure will be re-engineered in a fiscally sustainable manner while securing fair and adequate pensions for our elderly. To foster greater transparency and accountability, government will accelerate the implementation of the accrual international public sector accounting standards, broaden the mandate of the Public Accounts Committee, and ensure transparency of their deliberations. Make it mandatory for PAC to look into annual audit reports with the accounting officer in attendance and ensure that the report of the Director of Audit will be debated in the National Assembly and is submitted to the relevant institutions for investigation where appropriate. Government will reassess all the extra budgetary funds and special purpose vehicles. Government will reintroduce performance-based budgeting, which will systematically link funding with results and outcomes and help to reduce wastage. Government will introduce performance-based budgeting, which will systematically link funding with results and outcomes and help to reduce wastage. Government will also introduce the concept of green budgeting and integrate the need to address issues associated with climate change in its budgeting process. As it pursues its economic reform and fiscal consolidation program, government will introduce a Fiscal Responsibility Act. Government will go beyond securing a system for sound fiscal stewardship. It will also ensure that all sovereign assets and liabilities are managed for better development outcomes. To this end, government will set up a dedicated unit at the Ministry of Finance to develop and oversee the implementation of a national asset liability management framework. The Mauritius Investment Corporation is an example of how easily an irresponsible government, in collusion with an equally irresponsible central bank, can resort to abusive and even fraudulent use of the country's assets. Government will therefore come up with strict rules and regulations to ring-fence the nation's assets from such abusive practices. Government will also work with the Bank of Mauritius to develop a national strategy on the use and management of the country's foreign currency reserves. Honorable members, another central feature of the new economic order will be about better protecting and enhancing the buying power of consumers. Government is determined to combat the scourge of inflation, the more so that families with modest income bear the brunt of its adverse impacts. Government is conscious that monetary policy alone will not be enough to combat inflation. Government will therefore come up with appropriate structural policies. Government will introduce strict rules and regulations to better protect consumers from unscrupulous traders who, to increase their profit margin, reduce the size or weight of a product while the price remains the same. Government will also come up with legislation to reduce hiking of prices in times of emergencies and crises, to increase profit and the hoarding of products for sale at higher prices in the future. Government will explore the potential for the State Trading Corporation to import in bulk and at lower prices certain products in order to increase access for all consumers while curtailing inflationary pressures. A thorough audit of the operations of the State Trading Corporation will be undertaken. Government will review the current methodology for measuring inflation. Statistics Mauritius will work out different sets of measures of inflation, which reflect better the incidence of inflation on the purchasing power of the different income groups. Government will also ensure that an asset price index is constructed in order to better form economic decisions and policy making. Honorable members, it is the conviction of government that our country needs a social pact to reimagine our future as one people, as one nation. Government aims at a qualitative leap towards a more inclusive society, where the needs, the rights, dignity, and a sense of humanism of our people shape the social system of the Republic. Fundamental reforms will be brought to the outdated social security and social integration operational system of the country. Government will devote more attention to the elderly, widows, orphans, people with disabilities, and our most vulnerable citizens. Government is committed to bring major structural reforms in terms of legislative changes relating to service delivery and caring for our otherwise able citizens. Government will strengthen the constitutional rights to guard against discrimination against persons living with disabilities and will introduce measures to enhance their training and employability. It will also streamline the basic retirement pension entitlements for pensioners when traveling abroad and ensure payment of the portable retirement gratuity fund benefits upon retirement. Sorry. Government will implement a newly integrated e-social security system to ensure efficient and effective service delivery. Beneficiaries of social security schemes will have real-time access to their accounts. Research on the root causes of absolute and relative poverty, social stress, anxieties, and distress proliferation in society will be carried out. Government will review existing legislation and enhance the services to be provided for the welfare of the elderly. It will set up a senior volunteer and executive program to encourage retirees to offer their services part-time to private and public organizations and to act as volunteers for NGOs and other charitable, educational, or social institutions. The establishment of an ombudsperson for the elderly is also envisaged. The services provided by private elderly care facilities will also be regulated to provide better care to our elders. This government will ensure that gradually our country adheres to international standards and conventions regarding the elderly, as well as people with disabilities and national disaster refugees falling under the aegis of the state. In respect to social integration, government will review the conceptual framework of the National Empowerment Foundation and the National Social Integration Foundation. The aim is to ensure beneficiaries are broadly involved in more participatory, horizontal programs, while also promoting innovative, artistic, socio-ecological, and food security projects. Government is convinced that happy, supportive families are the foundation of a healthy, stable, and a sustainable society. The last decade has witnessed the collapse of the rule of law and persistent social issues. The affliction has negatively impacted on the family cell, bringing despair and demoralization. Far too many families, the scourges such as alcoholism, drug, addiction, over-indebtedness, and domestic violence are destroying the serenity and harmony. Government commits itself to reconstructing the family strength and key attributes that have been the backbone of our social development and upliftment, which have been undermined during the past decade. Government will encourage family interactions, mutual support, while offering more growth opportunities, namely through free internet to bridge the digital divide and fostering the development of every family member. Government will encourage the setting up of a network of services to provide social support and to stimulate family development and entrepreneurship. Government is committed to creating a more balanced work-leisure relation for the population. In this context, government will work towards a 40-hour week in non-essential sectors and a policy of equal pay for equal work. Government will give additional support to parenthood through parental leave of up to 1 year and the introduction of flexi-time and work-from-home schemes for mothers after the maternity leave. As it redesigns the social order, government is giving a place of prominence to reconstructing our education system. Government's aim is to make our education system inclusive again. The current system drops out too many children from the mainstream education. Too few children make it to tertiary education. These flaws are the source of social injustice. Government is determined to remedy them. Government will supplement the current approach, which is based primarily on intellectual capacity, with learning and teaching facilities, as well as opportunities to develop talent and non-intellectual skills. The new education system will unleash the creative and innovative potential of our children by providing opportunities for the development of their artistic, social, and moral capacities. To this end, a blueprint will be prepared following the Assises de l'éducation et des ressources humaines, which will be held this year with emphasis on un modèle éducatif à visage humain. Government will ensure that the reforms of our education system cover the widest possible number of issues, hampering the development of our students while addressing emerging challenges in a constantly evolving sector. Government will give due recognition to teachers for their invaluable work and their contribution for social transformation. Government also undertakes to increase the average per capita expenditure for special needs students. Honorable members, government's strategy for tertiary education will comprise initiatives in the fields of research, science, innovation, and workforce transformation. Government is determined to position Mauritius as a global education hub in order to attract international students and establish the nation as a center of academic excellence. A powerful and comprehensive branding and marketing campaign under the banner Study in Mauritius will be launched. Government is committed to creating inclusive and dynamic pathways from technical and vocational education and training to higher education while advancing technical education to meet industry demands. Honorable members, government will endeavor to foster a new social order with the reconstruction of the healthcare system to better heal, protect, and save lives. Government will take immediate measures to remedy the lack of investment in critical aspects of healthcare, including the poor state of medical facilities, chronic understaffing, lack of capacity building, and quality control of pharmaceutical products. In line with its government commitment to full transparency and accountability, government will set up a public inquiry into the practices that plague the health sector, particularly during the COVID-19 pandemic. The people of Mauritius deserve to know the truth. Government's strategy for the health sector will be in line with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 3 to ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all and of all ages, including ending AIDS by 2030. The strategy focuses on promotion, healthy lifestyles, expansion of dedicated healthcare services for the elderly, modernization of eye care services, and ensuring accessibility to advanced ophthalmic treatments, enhancement of mental health care, substance abuse rehabilitation, greater support to patients who require overseas medical treatment, review the administrative structure of public health institutions. Government will set up a health regulatory body to oversee health services in both public and private sectors. To that effect, the Public Health Act, which dates back to 1925, will be reviewed in line with international standards and protocols. The structure and operations of the Medical Council Pharmacy Board and other institutions under the responsibility of the ministry will be reviewed to make them more responsive to the needs of a modern, effective, and efficient health system. A digital health transformation program will be implemented in the healthcare sector. Digital health cards will be introduced for use by patients in both public hospitals and private clinics. The program will include telemedicine as well as the provision of e-medical prescription facilities, an online booking system to reduce waiting time in hospitals. An online training platform will also be provided for healthcare workers. Government will bring in new legislation to allow for parallel imports of pharmaceutical products, which will result in more competitive medicine prices. Through a system of pharmacare, prescribed medicines not available in the public health system will be provided. Full coverage of treatment costs abroad for patients will also be provided regardless of age when treatment is not available locally. To cater for our elderly, geriatric healthcare facilities will be introduced in all 5 regional hospitals. Moreover, new home-based care services will be introduced to include physiotherapy and medical assistance for patients with mobility and mobility challenges. Government will establish a diabetes center in all regional hospitals. A full-fledged and functional renal transplant unit will be set up to provide a sustainable and life-saving alternative to dialysis. 2 hospitals, one specializing in obstetrics and gynecology, and the other one in pediatrics, will be set up. Cancer care will be strengthened with the setting up of dedicated operating theaters for cancer surgeries and the integration of palliative care services. Honorable members, a roof for each family is not and should not be a pious wish. It is an integral part of the social rights of each family. Government is committed to valuing the right and doing everything possible to achieve this. A more pragmatic approach will be adopted to meet the various needs of housing. More active support for land supply and sustainable construction is required, while at the same time making access to finance more affordable. Government is aware that affordable housing is a fundamental right and will introduce reforms to make the housing sector more economically efficient, socially inclusive, and environmentally sustainable. The living environment in all existing social housing estates will be enhanced for improved quality of life. The main focus of the housing policy of government will be to facilitate access to a decent roof for low and middle income families. An institutional framework for the development of social housing will be elaborated following an audit of the projects of the new Social Living Development Limited since its creation. Henceforth, the construction of new housing estates will be carried out in line with the new standards to ensure better integration with the environment. The living environment in all existing residences will be enhanced for improved quality of service. To this end, the mechanism for renovating these residences across the country will be strengthened. Honorable members, Mauritius has a huge problem with the growing number of stray dogs. The Mauritius Society for Animals will be totally reorganized for operational efficiency, and a spay and neuter campaign for stray dogs will be implemented. Shelters on a regional basis for the welfare and management of stray dogs will be open. To provide further care to animals in general, the project for the setting up of a modern animal hospital, for which funds were already earmarked prior to 2015, will be undertaken. Honorable members, government believes that the future of a country can only be guaranteed when its youth is empowered and actively participates and contributes to societal progress. It is important to position young people as key partners in the socio-economic, cultural development, and political governance of the country. Government will launch a youth empowerment program in conjunction with the broad education sector. Emphasis will be laid on the development of self-awareness, self-reliance, self-efficacy, and emotional intelligence. Government will also promote cultural empowerment, encouraging young people to express their voices and explore their artistic path. Biannual youth festivals to celebrate and engage youth across the nation will be organized. Youth entrepreneurship schemes will be developed to align the aspirations of our youth and for meaningful job creation. Sports is a unifying factor. We are all proud whenever our athletes represent the country on the international stage. Government will promote both elite and grassroots sports, with the inclusion as a central principle. There will be equal access to sports for all, regardless of age, gender, or ability, through inclusive programs and access to sports facilities. Government will establish a Mauritius Sports Promotion Division to promote sports across all age groups with involvement of local authorities. A comprehensive package will also be developed to support our elite athletes. Government will upgrade sports infrastructure, introduce a new administrative framework, and a new sports bill. The objective is to transform the country into a sporting nation, focused on maintaining the health and well-being of every individual. The horse racing industry will be revamped, and the legal framework governing horse racing is being reviewed. The Champ de Mars will soon revive its glorious past. Honorable members, the fight against drug trafficking and use will be one of the major priorities of government. Additional resources will be provided to the police to increase its capacity to deal more efficiently with drug trafficking and related issues. Government will adopt bold measures to end the suffering of families and society in general. As a result of the significant increases in drug trafficking over the last few years and the breakdown in law and order, a select committee of the National Assembly will be appointed urgently to look into the ways and means to address the scourge of drugs. Civil society, including NGOs, actively engage in combating the proliferation and consumption of drugs will be invited to contribute to the work of the Select Committee. Subsequently, government will develop and implement a comprehensive action plan for a more efficient and effective response. I hope you can hear my voice. To implement action plan for a more efficient and effective response to deal with this social ill. Government will set up a national drug policy, monitoring and coordination agency that will bring together various bodies that will combat drug trafficking and provide rehabilitation and support families of victims of drug abuse. The legal provisions in respect of drug trafficking, consumption and treatment of drug addicts will be reviewed to cater inter alia for differentiated treatment of traffickers and consumers. Government has already initiated actions to restore trust in the police for effective enforcement of law and order, public safety, crime prevention, emergency response, and victim support. The following measures will be taken as a matter of urgency. Restructuring and modernizing the role of the police and the National Security Service. Create community policing and neighborhood watch. Creation of specialized units for protection and security of senior citizens. Introduction of police and criminal evidence bill. Setting up of a new infrastructural facilities and modernization of police stations and detention centers. A child-friendly juvenile detention center, as well as a police training academy. An introduction of biometric passport with advanced encryption and anti-tampering mechanism. Government will adopt a zero-tolerance policy and a victim-oriented approach to domestic abuse and human trafficking. In that respect, enforcement measures will be enhanced and a new shelter with modern facilities will be set up for women. To attain the set objectives, government will provide continuous learning opportunities in areas such as police studies and ICT, so as to revitalize the police force. Recruitment as well as promotion will be based on meritocracy, hard work, and performance. A proper and revised career path will be proposed for all police officers. Government is also committed to addressing injustices committed under the previous regime. Honourable members, government will work closely with the judiciary to introduce reforms to ensure that the judicial and legal system operate more efficiently, swiftly and fairly, and make justice more accessible. Better resources in terms of personnel, premises, and equipment will be provided. A Superior Court of Appeal, as recommended by Lord Mackay's report, will be established to hear appeals from the Supreme Court and arbitration tribunals. Government will introduce a new international investment and commercial court to give confidence to international investors and those doing business in Mauritius and its legal judicial system, will resolve disputes in a timely manner. The following legislation will be introduced. Police and Criminal Justice Bill to review the criminal justice system in Mauritius. Criminal Appeal Amendment Bill to make provision for simplified procedures for appealing against decisions of the Supreme Court in the exercise of its original jurisdiction in criminal matters. Judicial Review, Miscellaneous Provisions, Bill to make provisions for simplified procedures and to harmonize judicial review proceedings under various enactments. Extradition Amendment Bill to review the Extradition Act so as to provide for timely determination of extradition proceedings. Public Injuries Bill in order to repeal the Commissions of Inquiry Act and replace it with a modern, transparent, and comprehensive legislation which will provide clear parameters for the conduct of such inquiries, including time frames for such inquiries. Honourable members, to face climatic risks and vulnerabilities, and adoption of effective mitigation and adaptation measures, the elaboration of sound climate policies and governance practices is of utmost importance. Too often, institutions dealing with climate change operate in an isolated and disjointed manner, preventing the elaboration of a coherent, holistic strategy to face the daunting challenges of this existential threat. An evaluation of the effectiveness of institutional, regulatory, and legal framework will be a high priority of government. Government will undertake a landmark constitutional amendment to include the rights of nature in the constitutional and legal framework. Government recognizes the importance of environmentally sensitive areas, ESAs, as natural shields to protect our people and biodiversity. An ESA Act will be introduced and serve as a foundation for sustainable development. Government will make public the land drainage master plan and the digital elevation model. This will enable development of free software using open data by NGOs, academics, and other stakeholders to model climate impacts and assist in the development of mitigation strategies. Government will launch a service to ecology program, which will contribute to raising ecological awareness and promote nationwide participation on a voluntary basis. Government will facilitate development of socio-ecological alternative models and experiences that will sustain a just transition towards a socio-ecological future society. To this end, government will set up a Just Transition Commission with the participation of committed ecologists. The National Oil Spill Contingency Plan will be strengthened through capacity building, equipment procurement, and enhanced coastal sensitivity mapping for improved preparedness. Monitoring environmental health holistically will be prioritized through defining an environmental performance index, encouraging key elements such as air, water, land, and sea. Additionally, the Lagoon Water Quality Index will enable better assessment and categorization of beach water quality. To reinforce coastal resilience, the rehabilitation of eroded coastlines at priority sites will be undertaken. Additional land will be proclaimed at public beaches, and neglected pathways to existing beaches will be restored and upgraded for public use. For government will support source segregation to empower communities, encourage recycling, and foster a circular economy that creates green jobs while reducing environmental strain. Honorable members, national disasters are now occurring with greater frequency and severity, and it is likely to be still more so in the future. Responding to them, especially with limited resources, can be very challenging and costly. Government will put in place an all-embracing disaster management center under the aegis of the Prime Minister's office, as it used to be prior to 2015. The center will be foresighted and not reactive in its approach. It will be concerned with the core phases of disaster management as in other advanced countries. These include prevention, preparedness, response, and recovery. To support the disaster response and mitigation efforts across the country, an evacuation plan for Port Louis and other high-risk flood-prone areas will be put in place. A land drainage master plan for Rodrigues will be commissioned by the Land Drainage Authority. Government will give a major fillip to the development of a green energy industry. It will be a transformative endeavor with multiple benefits cutting across the economy, society, and environment. The former regime missed the opportunity for a real energy transition for lack of vision. Government, today our country faces a 10-year delay. The percentage of renewable energy sources in our energy mix production has been reduced from 23.4% in 2013 to 17.6% in 2024. To remedy this situation, government will implement a comprehensive energy transition program by increasing the share of renewable energy in the mix, with particular focus on solar and wind. Additionally, new sources of financing, including issuance of green bonds and crowdfunding, will be explored. Government's aim is to accelerate the replacement of fossil fuel with local renewable inputs to produce our electricity. To this end, government will completely review the country's energy policy. As government accelerates the development of green energy industry, it will at the same time ensure its democratization. Government will also promote demand management policies in the energy sector through ways and means to use energy more efficiently. Honorable members, the climate crisis is a threat multiplier that impacts profoundly on the water cycle. In Mauritius, the situation has been exacerbated by mismanagement of water resources. Government will review the National Water Policy and the National Integrated Water Resources Management Plan. There are currently 4 different institutions associated with the management of water resources in Mauritius, with hardly any coordination among them. This calls for a revamping of the governance structure of those institutions. Special attention will be given to the water situation in Rodrigues through improvement of the distribution network and storage system. Government will improve the water supply service in all regions in order to improve the quality of life for all, to enable continued development in the agricultural and industrial sectors through productive investments in water mobilization and treatment and distribution and the replacement of defective pipes based on proper leak diagnosis. The sea is seriously polluted due to the discharge of insufficiently treated wastewater by wastewater treatment plants. Many other towns without proper sewage systems experience poor sanitation conditions and health risks, particularly during periods of heavy rain and flooding. Government will take the necessary measures to reduce pollution of the sea and implement investment plans in infrastructure to improve our quality of life, particularly in areas without sewers. Government will review the Sewerage Master Plan 2012 as part of an integrated policy which would include water resources and sanitation together with strategic environment and social impact assessment. The wastewater network will be extended to more regions, including areas prone to overflows, as well as in places where the existing disposal system is creating inconvenience and representing health hazards to inhabitants. Honorable members, arts and culture play an important role in shaping the identity of a nation. Government will organize and assise des arts et de la culture, following which a strategic plan will be charted out for the sector for the period 2025-2029. Government will introduce legislation to recognize cultural workers as defined by United Nations. Support measures will be devised to create a conducive environment for artists. A cultural desk will be tasked with facilitating the obtention of all authorization and removing current administrative bottlenecks to organization of artistic events. The functions of the Mauritius Society of Authors will be reviewed to better support artists and protect their intellectual property rights. Government will also support the development of the creative industry as a new pillar of the economy with the required legislation, incentive schemes, and capacity development for professionals related to the creative industry. The National Heritage Fund will work with the public and private sectors for the creation of a sustainable local economy around major heritage sites. Government will encourage the development and promotion of cultural tourism to portray our diversity and our savoir-vivre. The creative industry will be further boosted through close collaboration with tertiary institutions providing courses in related fields. A cultural rebate scheme spanning across all areas in the arts sector and a directory of musical heritage in the Indian Ocean will be established. The cultural rebate scheme will promote our island internationally, as well as cultural destination with a rich heritage and dynamic arts scene. The law on the status of the artists will be reviewed to take into account the concerns of cultural workers. Government will set up a Mauritian Cultural Center that will promote our shared cultural heritage. Public art galleries, theaters, and other public venues will be renovated and made accessible to artists. Government will set up a National Arts Open Commission by the end of 2025. The Commission will initially advise on a comprehensive policy on arts and culture. Honorable members, in an era marked by AI and interconnected global challenges, the civil service must remain effective and impactful. Recognizing this, the government will put quality service at the center of public sector transformation and ensuring that needs of citizens remain a top priority. And adaptive leadership is vital for this transformation and driving national progress, as civil servants must navigate through complexity, uncertainty, and change. Government will encourage innovative practices and empower civil servants to exercise leadership and address systemic issues rather than relying on traditional hierarchical approaches. And we need to create a generation of adaptive leaders, positioning the civil service as a dynamic force for national development and long-term success. Government will put quality service at the center of public sector transformation. The vision of the public service is one that should be dedicated to upholding of public interests and reaffirmation of democratic fundamentals. Restoring trust in our public sector institutions at large is therefore high on government's agenda, given that we have witnessed severe erosion of values, ethics, and good governance principles and practices. Government is committed to bringing public service to new heights of efficiency and effectiveness, centered around the evolving needs of our citizens, and one which is responsive to societal aspirations of the nation while providing necessary support and training to its staff. Honorable members, government will introduce a public sector reforms bill to provide inter alia for reforms initiatives supported by appropriate legal framework with focus on good governance, transparency, accountability, thus paving the way for open governance culture. The introduction of an accountability framework for the public sector will ensure that responsibilities are clearly defined and that there are mechanisms in place to hold individuals and teams accountable. In the face of precarious state of the economy, improving performance and productivity in the public sector will be the top priority of this government. This will be achieved through a revised performance management system, monitoring of public sector delivery, and capacity building. Government will undertake major reforms to ensure that recruitment and promotion in the public sector are transparent and fair. The powers of the Public Bodies Appeal Tribunal will also be reinforced so that the PBAT can have broader jurisdiction with respect to both recruitment and promotion in the public service. Government will introduce a public facilitation system to facilitate public service delivery to the population, reducing cost of accessing services and eliminating unnecessary inconveniences. Honourable members, government acknowledges the importance of accountability and transparency in the administration and delivery of public services and is committed to reinforce the independent constitutional office of the Ombudsman as an institution where members of the public can confidentially bring their complaints and concerns for address and redress. Government will broaden the scope of the functions of the Ombudsman with a view to enhancing its contribution to the quality of service in the public sector as a whole. Honourable members, a modern and appropriate infrastructure is crucial for redynamizing private investment in both domestic and foreign. A modern and efficient transport infrastructure will be particularly vital. Government will come up with a 20-year master plan which will provide a strategic orientation for the land transport sector. The master plan will also include walkability into the country's larger mobility strategy that connects seamlessly with public and private transport and cycling infrastructure. A complete rethinking of the bus industry will be undertaken and comprehensive measures will be implemented to make public transport possible for all. As government expands and modernizes the land transport, it will also ensure greater road safety by introducing a graduated licensing system, undertaking projects to eliminate risk-prone spots, and enhancing enforcement and road safety education. Government also recognizes that a modern and efficient seaport will be of critical importance to boosting the competitiveness of our economy as a destination for foreign investment. There will be, therefore, a total revamping of the port and other infrastructure to support maritime economic activities. The master plan for the development of the airport will be fundamentally adapted to the new economic model, including the development of airport in Rodrigues. Government will also ensure that the telecommunication infrastructure and facilities evolve in consonance with the exigencies of the new economic model. A modern road asset management system will be implemented to classify and manage potential unclassified roads on the island. Madam Speaker, honourable members, the programme I've just presented sets out the will of government to translate into action over its 5-year period the wish of the electorate for shaping a new destiny for our country. It sets the agenda for a total reconstruction of our nation, underpinned by the national goals of economic efficiency, social justice, solidarity, and unity. It seeks to unleash the creativity and developmental spirit of the nation. Mauritius is at a turning point in its history. Let us all join forces to build a bridge to the future. We have to connect to the present, to a prosperous, sustainable, and inclusive future. which will be shaped by new technology, new skills, and new opportunities. We have to integrate environmental stewardship into our growth plans to safeguard the future for generations to come. Government is convinced that a collective commitment to a shared vision where all come together will enable the nation to move forward with a clear collaborative goal for the nation's future. The Mauritian ingenuity works best when we all act together and advance in the same direction. Let us today, at the dawn of this new era, forge ahead as one nation, as one people, and as one nation. Madam Speaker, honorable members, let Mauritius be Mauritius again. Thank you and God bless.
Vous venez d'assister en direct de Port-Louis la séance spéciale de l'Assemblée nationale avec la lecture du discours programme 2025-2029 par le président de la République d'Arambir Gokul. On connaît désormais les orientations du gouvernement pour les prochains 5 ans, ses priorités et les réformes à venir. Dans quelques instants, les députés vont quitter le Vagji Hall pour se rendre à nouveau dans l'hémicycle où la séance parlementaire va se poursuivre. Alors, vous voyez à l'image le président de la République qui quitte le Vagji Hall accompagné par la speaker Shirin Oumiroudi Zifra. Voilà donc le président de la République, Darambi Gokul, qui quitte le Vakji Hall après avoir donné lecture du discours programme 2025-2029, une cérémonie que vous avez pu assister en direct sur les chaînes MBC, télé, radio et sur nos plateformes numériques. La réalisation a été signée de Satyan Bharat et Avinash Bissundoyal. Merci à toute l'équipe qui était en direct de Port-Louis. Nous allons rendre l'antenne à Moka.
Honourable Prime Minister.
Yes, Madam Speaker, I beg to move for the adjournment of the House to Tuesday, the 4th of February at 11:30 a.m.
Thank you. The question is that the House be adjourned to Tuesday, the 4th of February at 11:30 a.m. Those in favour say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The House stands adjourned.